All right. Well, thank you for joining us again. If it is unbelievable to think this, but I think today is officially exactly 1 year ago, we started doing these weekly webinars called Navigating the Coronavirus Economy. And we collectively decided about 3 or 4 weeks ago that we were going to change the name from navigating the coronavirus economy to moving beyond the navigating coronavirus economy. And I keep forgetting to change it at the intro. So today, our 1 year anniversary will be moving beyond the coronavirus economy and into the next realm. And I am so glad to have Jeremy with us from Rise25, who is going to be sharing with us how to build a referral pipeline. And it's very fitting as we're coming into 2021 out of, looks like the pandemic. It looks like we're coming out of this as all the numbers continue to go down for us, and the vaccines are getting implemented and such. And so this is a perfect time to be thinking about growing your business and adding new people in new business in. For a smaller group, please do not hesitate to ask a question, ping us in between. And while we have Jeremy with us, Jeremy, I'll turn things over to you to do a quick intro. Tell us a little bit about you and jump into it here.
Cool. Thank you, Tom. I'm going to share my screen for a second, if that works. If you can let me share my screen and let's see here.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And let me know if you can see this. Let me see here. Can you see my screen here?
Yes. Yes,
Awesome.
I can.
Awesome. So you see your face on there?
I do.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, what I would encourage anyone, if they have questions, put them in the chat. I'll try and look at them, or Tom will see them. So if you have questions throughout, and I will definitely have time and room for questions at the end. But I want to go through kind of a framework on how to reach your Dream 100, clients, referral partners, and create a referral and client pipeline for any business, really. And you could do this, using a podcast to connect to virtually any strategic partner, VIP, or client. And for people who don't have a podcast, that's totally fine. You could, replace podcast with blog or whatever, right? But for this purpose, we'll talk about podcasting, but you can do this in a lot of different realms as well. So without further ado, I'll get started, and I'm just going to go through the methodology. But I don't know if anyone can relate to this. If you ever feel like you're running uphill, like I have. And so kind of my background, Tom, you mentioned, is I remember, in chiropractic school, working 4 jobs to pay the bills, and I made a whopping $9,000 that year. Okay. And so after school, finally got a job after 8 years. My first job made $30,000, whopping $30,000. I felt like I was a rich person. Like I'd never made that much. And so later on, in my businesses, I've had owned multiple businesses. I was working 80 to 100 hours per week. Also, sometimes not being able to spend time with family, like doing networking and all this other stuff. As you could see here, I don't know if I can relate to that. But I finally discovered a way to control my destiny. Okay. And when I discovered that, there was no turning back. I was like, I'm not going back to the old way anymore. And here's what happened. I call it I think of it in my mind as the cascade of business. And I featured a top venture capitalist on my podcast. Okay. And Tom, I don't know if you know where I'm going with this. So the list of 27, after the interview, I said, he sent me a list of 27 people that he think would be a good guest. So he sent me 27 referrals, to me right afterwards. Very successful person. A highly, just in all respect, in all sense of the word, in the industry, respected by his colleagues, his peers. And here's his email he sent to me. Hey, Jeremy, please find the below list of people and companies that may be of relevance to your podcast. And he said you should treat this as a first draft, which, by the way, he's super busy. The fact that he even sent this or said it's a first draft to me blew my mind. It's like, oh, there's he's going to send me more than 27. But to to highlight the caliber of people he's sending me, he said, Yuri Levine, founder of Weisz, I've already approached him last week. I'll let you know as soon as he replies. Yuri Levine, if you don't know Weisz, maybe you've used it. It was bought for over $1 billion, I believe, by Google. And so that was the caliber of people that was on this list. Okay. And he already reached out to Yuri to tell him about me. I didn't ask anything. That's the power of this. Okay. So I finally discovered a more predictable system for getting more incoming referrals, how to connect with higher caliber potential clients, and how to build the biggest reputation in your field. I'm going to go through the exact methodology today. And it's not, people say it's not what you know, but it's who you know. I don't know who said that. I like to say it's not what you know or who you know, but how you grow your network. And that's really what it is, in controlling the way you grow your network, because who you know, like, you can control who you know through this. And so on this, I'm going to show you how to connect to your Dream 100, your ideal clients or referral partners without traveling, obviously. I will share our system for giving to your network in a way that will bring you lots of incoming referrals. And I'll show you how you can get ROI immediately from this presentation, because for me, I'm all about giving first. I want people to get an immediate actionable result from listening to this. And so if you think like, Jeremy, how are you going to do that? Just wait. I will show you how you will do that on this presentation. Okay. So I'll go through my a little bit of the background, why most people think about podcasting completely wrong, the biggest misconceptions about podcasting. I'll go through the 5-step process and how any business can create a referral pipeline with the podcast. And I'm going to go through our podcasting to referrals blueprint, and I'm going to go through some case studies, and then I'll answer any questions. Okay. So I don't know, Tom, is this about 45, supposed to be about 45 minutes? Is that?
Yeah, we have as much
Okay.
time as
Okay.
we have as much time as you'd like. Some folks go, 10 minutes, some folks
right.
go an hour and a half. So
Okay. I just want to be respectful of, usually, I'll go through this in about that time, but I want to leave room for Q&A too. So,
perfect.
but like I joke around, it's not about long copy. It's about compelling copy, right? If it's not about how long or short it is. If it's actionable and it's exciting, then that's what's worth it. So I'm going to try and make this as actionable, as exciting as I can for your business. So a little about my background, like why am I talking to you about this? Like, who is it for me to talk about this? So I've been podcasting for over 10 years. I started Inspired Insider podcast. I've been publishing about 2 to 3 episodes a week for over 10 years. I've been back in 2009. I was helping some of the early on business podcasts and running some of the operations and putting in the operations in place and behind the scenes. My business partner also, who has been podcasting for over 10 years, was a speechwriter at the White House. That's how we met, actually. I'd say, Tom, everything good for me comes back to a podcast outside of my wife, because I did not meet her on a podcast. But I know people who met their wives from their podcast, actually. So it does hold true as well. But he wrote for the White House. He wrote for the governor of California, and you could see him. I joke around. He screenshots himself in with presidents, but he actually, those are not photoshopped at all. But so we met through podcasting, and with Rise25, that's what we do. We help people launch and run their podcast. So here's the methodology I'm going to go through. These are the 5 steps to profit with a podcast. Okay. 1 is going to create your Dream 100. And by the way, this is going to profit for your business in general. It doesn't like film podcasts, but get ROI with outreach is number 2. 3 is the art and science of producing amazing content. And we will go through technology setup. 4 is build your give loop and grow your reach. And then 5 is turn your podcast into profits. So turn your guests into partners. Okay.
And Jeremy, just to interrupt real quick, just for the audience that's tuning in, like you said, I just want to reiterate that you can replace podcast with whatever medium or channel that you might be interested in. So I just want to emphasize that.
Yeah,
if
totally.
podcasting maybe doesn't fit, then there are other things. But most people, I'm guessing, are interested in a podcast.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you are like, Jeremy, I'm listening to this, I'm never starting a podcast in my life, I'd be like, that's a mistake, first of all. But this will still be valuable for you through the exercises we go through, 100%.
Great.
Okay. So what do most people think podcasting is, right? they think it's this. It's like just technology, a video, right? So I'm going to show you how to create that predictable system, access higher caliber clients, and build a big reputation in your field. Here's some of the people companies we've been able to collaborate and work with based on podcasting. And by the way, the asterisk there is you do not need industry connections or an audience at all. People are like, well, I don't have an audience. I don't have an industry. It doesn't matter. I've been able to connect with all of these companies because of podcasting. And okay, I had no connection. It wasn't like my brother worked for the company or I had a cousin who knew someone. It was from a cold outreach. Okay. We've landed a project with a publicly traded company. You could see that's me. We ran, it was a 17,000 person conference and we ran their podcast because of, actually featuring some of their people and connecting with them and giving them through our podcast. So this is why I'm so passionate about it. It's actually much more personal for me. I feel it's about leaving a legacy. Okay. And this is actually inspired. So I have a greater mission and purpose for this, but because I feel like when you have your guests on, you're helping them leave a legacy for themselves and even their families. And so I started podcasting because my grandfather, one of the reasons was a Holocaust survivor, and his legacy lives on because the Holocaust Foundation did an interview with him. And it's still up. It's still up on inspiredinsider.com. And even though he's not alive, my kids can watch it and other family members can watch it. We're at an inflection point with podcasting. I don't know if you've noticed, it's becoming popular, which means listenership is increasing. It means, it's becoming ingrained even into vehicles, but it's really a Swiss Army knife. Okay. And the funny thing is, Tom, like many successful people have utilized this strategy. This is a quiz. Okay. Let's see if you can guess who this person is. This little girl was born into poverty in rural Mississippi to a teenage mother. She was unfortunately raped at age 9, became pregnant at 14. She landed a job in radio, though, while still in high school, and began co-anchoring the local evening news. The way she grew and climbed up is she featured others with interviews, and she grew to the top of her industry. If that face looks familiar, okay, it's Oprah, right? I mean, that's how she interviewed people on her show. And there she is, obviously, with Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. And so, it's a tool to level up your network, no matter who you are. Okay. And I give the example. If you are Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn, he has a podcast, right? Does he have tons of connections with other podcasts? Yes, but he chooses to have a podcast because it levels up his network. If you're there with Tony Robbins, so no matter who you are, you can level up. And if you've heard of Seth Godin's books, it's a channel that can't be ignored. He says it's the new blogging. It's the generous act of showing up with trust and authority, and that's what it is about. But like I was saying, most people think about it all wrong, and this is what the questions they ask, Tom. They go, "What microphone should I use? How do I get downloads? How do I get subscribers? How do I get sponsors? How do I get people to say yes? Will they even say yes to me?" We can answer all those questions very simple. Okay. This is a Blue Yeti mic. You can buy an ATR 2100 mic for like $70 on Amazon. You literally USB plug into your back of your computer. It's not difficult. And it's not about what you'll find when I'm going to talk about downloads and subscribers and sponsors or getting guests to say yes. And this is what 99% of the people focus in on that ask me these things. The question is, no one ever failed podcasting because of poor audio quality, or they couldn't get enough downloads, or couldn't get guests to say yes. Well, the number one reason people stop is because they don't figure out how to get ROI. That's the bottom line. Okay. And so we're going to focus today. One of the pieces is, spending 99% of the time thinking of who is your dream 100 list. Who are the people in your universe that you want to give to? That could be clients, that could be referral partners. And we're going to walk through some exact step-by-step on how you could think about this, but that's really what we're going to focus in on. So the key to podcasting successfully is getting ROI, because, if you don't get ROI, you'll stop doing it. And then it's worthless to you. Okay. So how do you get ROI? One, you want to focus on the best use of your time. So that means using the podcast to build relationships, and you want to delegate everything else off of your plate, because the best use of your time as a business owner is to build relationships and run your business. And that's it. You shouldn't be doing anything else besides that. Okay. And so here's the 5 parts that I was talking about. Okay. I'm going to go through these step by step. The first one, create your dream 100. This is the way I think about it, is when you zoom out, here's what it looks like. The first stage is you focus in on creating your dream 100 foundation. The next stage is what you do is you reach out to the list of people, to your relationships, to the people you know, people you don't know. When you engage in that outreach, that brings you into conversations with collaboration partners, with potential clients, with other people who are going to refer you people. As you could see, Tom, ROI can happen in that moment. And that's when I tell people you can get ROI before you even launch the podcast. People are like, Jeremy, you're crazy. What are you talking about? But you could see in this process, we haven't even featured anyone yet. Okay. So with the outreach, and the outreach is a giving in nature, because you're asking someone to be on your show and you're not asking them for anything. You're not asking to do a demo with them. You're not asking for money. You're not asking for anything. It's just, I want to give to you. And so the next piece is featuring them. And when you feature someone, that leads to, people can refer people to you much easier if you have a podcast, right? Because they don't have to qualify. Tom, right now, this person's not looking to do a franchise, right? So maybe he's in the beginning stages. I'm not sure if I should from the time he's not quite ready yet. But it doesn't matter with a podcast. Cool. Like, Tom's a cool guy. He's got a great podcast. Just go on his show and you guys will have a great conversation. Whatever happens, happens. So the qualification process goes out the window more. And so when you feature that person, it sets up what I like to call the give loop. And the give loop is they can refer you people. You are then going to publish what you did with them and send it out to the universe, which is this constant giving loop. And then the referrals and the people you have on lead to more ROI. So we're going to focus in on this first part right now, the Dream 100 Foundation. So the first question is, who's your ideal targeting for clients and referral partners? And that's something to think about. So you want to plan out your referral partners and strategic partners, because most people think of a Dream 100 as just clients. Okay. Let's expand that a little bit into referral partners and strategic partners. And I like to categorize these into, there's warm relationships and there's cold relationships. And I separate this out because most people go to the coldest of cold, the hardest people to reach, and we forget about the people that already know, like, and trust us. Okay. So let's start with warm for a second. So anyone listening to this, I want you to think of this. Who are your best referral partners? Okay. And another way to ask this is, who is a champion of yours? Okay. Like, they're like, oh my God, Tom's the best thing since sliced bread. My God, he tells everyone about you, or he's always thinking of you. And who is that champion of yours? Now make a list of people who already know, like, and trust you, and who have basically looked back 6 months. Who's referred you anyone? And even if it didn't turn out, who referred you anyone? Okay. So this is probably the most important list to you. It should be. Okay. Who are your biggest champions? So the cold piece, here's some common threads, because people are like, well, I want more relationships. But listen, the gold is right here, right? The gold is right here. And oftentimes we neglect it. I remember I was talking to someone the other day, and we made a list of their referral partners. And I go, when's the last time you thanked them, said anything to these people? And most of the time it was 6 months or more. I was like, are you crazy? Like, you're going after all these new people. Like, these are people who already love you. Like, why are you not communicating with them? Why are you not giving to them? So, but we'll go the cold route. Okay. So here's the common trends to think about when you're thinking of referral partners and strategic partners. Okay. Who are other types of consultants or practice management groups in your industry that obviously don't do what you do? Okay. Who are some of the trade associations in the industry of your best clients? Who are the people who run conferences on your topic? I was talking to someone earlier today who's a client. They're in the pizza industry, right? So this relates to franchising. And there's whole conferences. Like, forget about restaurant. This person also serves restaurants, but within their restaurant industry, their best clients were pizza places and breakfast places. There's whole, conferences around Pizza Expo and Pizza this and all of that. So think about that. 4, ask your best customers, what do they use? So if it's a breakfast place, what is the software they use? What is the reward point software they use? Because guess what? I forgot, there was one in Chicago, it's called like Belly or something. They have it, you go in the restaurant, you've seen it, they have a little iPad, and you could sign up and get free discounts or whatever. Like, guess what? That company has thousands of other breakfast places. So, that relationship will be a great partner. So, and there's speakers and authors. Let's look at a quick case study and a few examples of how this could work for you. Okay. So Jason Swank, ideal client is agency owners that need help growing. Okay. So here's an episode. I featured Jason on my podcast. And the funny thing is with this, Tom, is it goes both ways. Okay. Probably 70 to 80% of the people I have on refer us clients. If you choose correctly, refer us clients or maybe become a client. But guess what? The opposite holds true too. 70 to 80%, I refer to them or I become their client. Because remember, in a strategic partner or collaboration partner relationship, they're also a strategic partner of us. So I'm also referring to them. I'm also using them. So guess what? I bought all his stuff. I sign up for his group. He also refers us people. So it goes both ways. So people are thinking, well, people think, well, is this like a Trojan horse situation? Not at all. I mean, actually, I am looking away strictly to give. I'm not expecting anything. Obviously, I hope that something comes out of it, but that's cool. If nothing does, I'll just give to that relationship and help as much as possible. And that came through featuring him on my podcast and deepening that relationship. Okay. Mark Bayer, consultant, speaker. He wasn't landing as many speaking engagements, wasn't connecting top people in the industry, did not have a steady pipeline for his consulting services. It was like, cool, this ends and I got to find the next one. Didn't have a clear understanding even sometimes of the target market. So he became the thought leader in his niche. He started landing keynote speeches, workshops, but had this pipeline of people recommending him or referring to him, and did consulting with top universities. And the When Science Speaks, he formed relationships with the New York Times, the World Bank, University of Chicago. I was jealous of him because he got a keynote in Australia and they all expense paid. I've never been there. And they paid him and paid for his travel because of the relationships through the podcast. And Craig Weisz in the dental industry. So this works. I'm saying this because this works across any industry. Like, well, that's not going to work for me. Well, it's worked across many, many different industries. For them, they weren't connecting. They have an innovative model actually called the Retainer Club, where they help orthodontic offices with a revenue stream and serving their patients. And they basically, they weren't connecting with the top orthodontists. They wanted to explain this innovative new model to more influencers. So we helped them launch, the In Your Face podcast. Okay. And I'm going to continue this story in the next piece because they were able to, this part is the Dream 100s. We were able to connect to the top influencers and orthodontists, and I'll continue the story later, but just think of, for you, if you're listening to this, who's your ideal client and who are your ideal referral partners? So think of consultants or practice management groups, trade associations, conferences, software, services, authors, influencers in your space. Okay. And if one of them jumps out to you, like, cool, like you only need 1 or 2 of these to really have a deep impact in your business. So here's an example. So who are your best referral partners? Okay. I went through this exercise with one of our clients, and they are a financial advisor. And when we got to asking them, okay, great. He's like, well, we help anyone who's whatever, high net worth, investor money, blah, blah, blah. I go, well, yeah, but who do you really love working with? And we identified they really love working with, and for some reason, dentists were attracted to this financial advisor. So I go, oh, cool. Awesome. So that means your possible referral partners, instead of going after whatever, high net, making it too broad, let's see the dental niche, right? There's dental consultants, there's dental practice management groups, there's dental associations, there's dental conferences, all of these things here. And what happened was, once we identified this, there was this one dental consultant and practice management group that held a dental conference. It was like all those in one. So we reached out, had them on. After the interview, the person's like, "Hey, why don't you be my personal guest at my conference?" The conference, I think, cost $2,000. He's like, "Why don't you come? You be my personal guest. I'll comp you. I'll introduce you to all the people that you should know." This person did not ask for that. It just was a relationship. Then he went down to the conference, met the person. This was before COVID, met the person face to face and was introduced around. So start by writing down right now, if you can, write down your 3 best referral partners, their name, and then not only their name, but put the profession. Because what we start to see is trends. That means what other profession should be your good referral partner. So I've done this with people. They go, "Oh, Joe, Mary, and Jane are all great referral partners, and 2 of the 3 were CPAs." I'm like, do you realize that CPIs tend to be your best referral partners? Like, I actually never really realized that. So when you write down the name, also make sure you put down the profession as well. Okay. Because that will really maybe show you a trend. Okay. So the Dream 100, next is the outreach. So we have this list of people. What do we do? Well, you got to reach out to them. So that's the second most important part. And here's where we are, right? Outreach leads to more conversations and featuring them. So how do you get ROI before you launch? Okay. Like, Jeremy, that sounds crazy. Well, here's how you do it. We call it the indirect ask. The indirect ask means it's a message you could send to get referrals from other guests from your network. Okay. So why is this the most powerful thing you could do? You're going to get more high caliber referrals from your network. So a direct ask I define as you're asking them to be on your show. An indirect ask, you can ask them to be on, but you're also asking them for guest suggestions. Okay. So the result is you get ROI before launching your podcast. You get introductions before launching your podcast through just reaching out. Okay. This is a message I got. It's a terrible message, by the way. I'm going to show you what you can message. This person said, "Hey, amidst the circumstances that are occurring, we like to reach out." And first of all, I don't speak Old English. So I didn't even, they lost me in the first sentence. Okay. I like to send you some updated information regarding our service. This is like a typical outreach. Like, people just emailing and saying, "Hey, let me tell you about my services." I'm like, first of all, I don't even ask you for your services. I don't even say I want your services. So why are you emailing and just, we've all gotten those emails on LinkedIn or in our email, like this, like 3 paragraphs of their stuff. Like, you didn't even bother to ask me what I do. You didn't bother anything. It's just, here's my services. Okay. So how do you craft the indirect ask message that's effective for people? Because I've reached in people have reached some of the busiest people out there. Okay. So one, you want to make sure you list your criteria of who you want to feature. So if you're reaching out to an indirect ask to a person, and this is a person, right? It's not like a cold outreach to someone like, "Hey, you want to make guest suggestions?" These are people because remember, our relationships, our champions, and our people who already know, like, and trust us is really our focus point here first. So make a list of your criteria. So if I reached out to Tom and I said, "Tom, I would love your suggestions. I know you have an amazing network of people. I'm looking for CEOs of B2B software companies that have 200 staff members." Okay. As a specific example. Okay. Now, obviously, if I'm reaching out to you, Tom, like, a lot of people in the franchise. So if I'm like, "Hey, I'm looking for a company that has more than 50 locations," or something like that, right? Or you may ask that of someone in the industry. Do you know of a company I really want someone to speak to having more than 50 locations? It can't be like a 5 location. It's got to be 50 or more. That person in their mind is going to be, okay, thinking of who do I know? The other part is you need to include social proof elements, right? So what makes you credible? Now, this person may know you, any from a 0 to 10 scale, they may, know you at a 3, and some may know you a 7, some may know you a 10, but you include those social proof elements. Hey, by the way, on my podcast, I've also featured the founder of, I'm making this up, Tom, but Pizza Hut. I've featured the founder of Einstein Bagels. I've featured all these people in the space. I've been doing this personally for 15 years. I've helped X number of franchises. They're like, oh, wow, like Tom knows what he's doing, right? And then share details in the PPS, because the point of this reach out is to get guest suggestions, because you want other great people to feature on the podcast, right? This is not to slam in their face what you do as a service in general. So what I like to do is just throw it very softly in the PPS. And in the PPS is like, hey, here's what I do. So they could discover it if they read your email. And by the way, most people do read a PS and PPS, but you're not in their face with it, and that's not really the purpose of the email. Okay, so putting it all together, back to Craig, and they weren't connecting the top worth and honest. They wanted to explain this new innovative model, and so with our guidance, they sent the indirect ask to influencers and potential clients. And some of these individuals, by the way, were people they had reached out to and had conversations with before, and they went dark. Okay. Everyone's had those people, like, I don't know why they went dark. They just stopped responding to my emails. After we sent the indirect ask, hey, like, we'd love to get your suggestions and maybe feature you. Within 45 minutes of not getting responded to for months, the person responds back. Okay. And what happened was that results into, that person had a large network of people in that space. And it resulted in an introduction that was $100,000 in annual recurring revenue. Okay. And this was, by the way, they had no established audience, no tribe or following, and they were able to land an influencer in that space and get high quality referrals. And it's not just a client, by the way, this is a referral partner, which means that will result in more referrals in the future. Okay. So they realize the power of having their own podcast for that predictable system to create those referral partners and clients. So here's the action. How do you get referrals now in the next 24 hours, in the next hour even? Okay. So what I want everyone to do, you could do it now, you could do it after this is over. I want you to take out your phone, find the people you wrote down on your Dream 100. Who are your biggest champions? Find those people. Okay. And it's very simple. I mean, it's not asking anything. It's really just appreciating them and giving to them in some fashion. And we mentioned you could have, it works really well if you have a podcast. It puts fuel on it if you have a podcast. If you don't, that's totally fine. Just message them. It could be, a lot of times people overcomplicate this. Most of our best champions are in our phone. Okay. Take out they're people you text with all the time. Text them and thank them, like actually specifically thank them for whatever they did to help you, and ask them what they're focused on. Ask them how you can help them. Ask them, get on a call with them, just focused on totally on what they're working on, how you can help them. Okay. It's nothing about you. It's nothing about your business. The funny thing is, I find the best way to get referrals is to give referrals. That's it. Like, I probably send 5 to 30 introductions every single day. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just, hey, you two should meet, boom. And I do a double opt-in, of course. So that's the next action. Schedule a call with one of your champions. If you have a podcast, or if you've thought about having a podcast, you can record an episode. You can explore their number one goal, see how you can help them. Ask them, if you do have a podcast, for sure, first guest suggestions, and if it's a fit to feature them, right? And that just sets up the whole give loop of feature them, because then you're going to promote it, which is kind of what we'll go through next. Does this work? Okay. We were curious. We decided to take a closer look at past guests. Here's a list. These past guests have become clients or referred us clients. Okay. All these arrows. They've paid us some kind of money at some point. But like I mentioned, These are past guests who we refer to, and we become their customer as well. Okay. So it goes both ways. So the next part is the art and the science of producing amazing content. Okay. So we're in the feature part, right? How do you produce amazing content and rock an interview? It's really the power of stories. And so stories are memorable. They move people into action. Like if you think about your favorite movie or book, it's full of amazing stories. And I think, Tom, for any business, content marketing is huge, right? It's authority in your space. So whether we're talking about podcasting or a blog post or whatever, it should have a great story and gives more people reason to engage with you. Here's an example I use for statistics versus a story. Okay, this statistic, if you ask me to recite this or remember this, I'm not going to remember it. It's a statistic. So according to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, 245 children under the age of 8 were killed when they were crushed by falling TVs or other furniture. Okay, if you have kids, this is a frightening thought. I mean, literally, this happens, right? I have 2 kids, young kids. I read this. I didn't change my behavior. I didn't do anything. I'm like, oh, that's terrible. Okay. Then one of my friends, I was on the phone with one of my friends who's an ER doctor. And I go, how was your day today? And he has a crazy, like his normal day is most people are nightmare day, right? Jeremy, I had this kid come in the ER, 2 years old, grabbed the TV off of, and previously, by the way, I had read this statistic. I knew this. This was a random conversation. The kid grabbed the TV off of the stand, was trying to brace themselves and grabbed it. It fell onto their head. They came into the ER today. They are going to be a vegetable the rest of their life. And I'm like, that is the worst thing I've ever heard. You have the worst job. I cannot believe that. Okay. Guess what I did, Tom, that day? I went, bolted everything to the wall. I threw out anything that could possibly fall on one of the kids and basically moved into action. It was because of a compelling story. It wasn't because of a statistic I read. So really, it's about moving people into action. And that's what you want to do with your content. You want it to be compelling and entertaining. I mean, that's a terrible story, but it moves people into action. So how do you get great stories from your guests? Well, you ask great questions that elicit great stories. So here's some shortcuts I found that help elicit great stories. You want to ask an open-ended question like, how'd you get started? Or where'd the idea come from? So when I was researching, you want to find a gem in there that is interesting to you. I was researching Nolan Bushnell. I interviewed Nolan Bushnell, is the founder of Atari and Chuck E. Cheese. He was Steve Jobs' mentor. And I realized that through my research that I found out that Steve Jobs offered him 33% of Apple for $50,000. And he said no. He probably, maybe arguably the richest person in the world, right? I don't know, possibly if he took that. And so I asked him, why did you say no to that? And so if you already kind of know there's a story behind there, you can ask that. And so he answered it on Inspired Insight. Like it was crazy, and he walked through some stories about Steve Jobs and it was very compelling and interesting. The other part about creating amazing content is leaving a legacy with content. And so I talked about this because there's a greater mission, greater purpose, which is leaving a legacy. I had Jordan on, and he was at that stage, very successful founder. He was diagnosed with stage 3 melanoma. And he had this amazing outlook on life. And unfortunately, he died, but I got an email from his family. I don't know if it was a few weeks after, saying, thank you for doing this interview because you really captured the essence of Jordan, and that lives on, and people, they watched it actually. And so that was amazing. So that's kind of the amazing content piece. The next is build your give loop. Okay. So right here, we're here in this whole process of your give loop, which is the referrals and ROI. So when you publish a podcast episode and you're giving to that guest in a major way, Even if it's a new podcast without a lot of downloads, it doesn't matter. You are publishing it. So here's an example. Richard Rossi, amazing, amazing person. He runs a company that fills a stadium full of people in high school, overachieving high school students that feel like they don't have their crowd. I don't know if we've been in high school, there's these cliques, and usually the people are like into the sciences, and maybe they're treated as outcasts sometimes, and they don't have their group, they don't have their close niche. Well, he has this stadium full of people who are all like, they want to be future doctors and astronauts and scientists. And he has astronauts and he shows live surgeries on stage that people can geek out on. Just he started some amazing companies, and I had him on. And through that, as you can see here, like I've published on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, all these channels. The power of this is you give them a way to to share it with their audience. So even if you don't have an audience, so you can see here, he was proud of that interview. He's like, hey, check out my recent podcast with Jeremy. He posted this on LinkedIn. And he's got a amazing network of people. You could see and this is like in a short period of time, there were 34 likes, 6 comments, probably more now. That was nothing. I didn't even know he was going to post that. I posted across my channels, but the distribution and the give loop continues on, and people want to share that with their audience. Okay. So you could see that. So you're taking that one conversation and you're putting it across over 10 plus channels, and it's a way to that conversation can live on. So how do you turn the podcast into profits? How do you turn guests into partners? It's very simple. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but you give as much as humanly possible to people. So look for ways to give and collaborate. So here's a couple ways. After the interview, refer them someone, find their ideal client. There's a lot of times where I've had someone on my podcast. I'm like, you know what? I think this person would be a good client for you, actually. And you want me to reach out, and referring them a client. Okay. Actually is huge. Referring them to another person that can collaborate. Next is you can message when the episode goes live. Make sure you message when it goes live so they could share it and engage with it and send it to their list of, some people send it to their email, some people send it on their social media. Anytime you see a comment on the social media post or someone mention them, that they like the episode, let them know, or mention, put that in the comments. So constantly it's once it's out there in social media, you can constantly see people saying, oh, I liked it. I'll get emails all the time, Tom, from people saying, oh my God, I love that episode you did with Tom. So it's like, I will immediately message Tom and go, Tom, they love that episode, by the way. Like, just let them know. You're not basically asking for anything. It's like, cool. That's great that they got some value out of that. The other part is have a formal referral program so you can incentivize people with a referral contract. So like we actually do that. So if someone's like, oh, cool, like they refer us, people go, great. Actually, we have a referral program. Here's our referral program. I know you're not referring because of that, but we have that. So here's a hypothetical no-brainer, right? If let's say you interview referral partners, and I don't know what you're out there, what your client lifetime value is worth. Some people it's 1,000, 5,000, 50,000, it depends on the type of business you have. But if you interview 40 referral partners and only 10% of them refer you, one person, that's 4 clients for the year. Okay. Now, depending on your lifetime value of a client, you can do the math, but it could be massive ROI for you because and by the way, year 2, those people are still referral partners and you have more referral partners. Okay. So the 2 key elements is the right strategy to identify and reach out to your best Dream 100 referral partners and clients. And second, make sure you get everything else off your plate because you don't want to have to focus in on anything besides your business and the relationships. Okay. So if you do this right, there is the potential for lots of referrals and client work. So final thoughts is, in a time of crisis, anything, what do? We turn to our best relationships. We strengthen, the best thing we could do is strengthen your best relationships by delivering value to them and always keep growing and up-leveling your network. Okay. So I know we're right at the 45-minute mark. If anyone has questions, they could always email jeremy@rise25.com and I'll take any questions.
Great. Well, Jeremy, that was amazing. And please feel free to, um, Sheldon, if you have any questions, or Yvonne, anyone on the line here, feel free to type it in the chat box or ask. And, just just for me watching this, Jeremy, I actually have a referral to send over to you to get you
Oh, cool.
connected. I was talking to someone yesterday. So anyway, I've got a referral to send your
Nice.
way. So thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Yeah, thanks.
That's kind of
Yeah,
how it,
and if
yeah.
you can't think of any questions now, you could always email. I know, like, the I try and address the common questions in this. So I don't know if you've heard any questions, Tom, from people in the past, or you any questions, or let me know or put them in the chat.
Yeah, I know for me, when I've spoken to people regarding this idea of podcasting and going through it, you hit it right. You hit the nail on the head right at the beginning, where even this person yesterday, I'm going to send your way. He's got a great business. He's doing well. He's in a niche market, and he wants to get into this type of thing. And his number one thing is, well, exactly what you said. Which microphone do I need? And how do I do this? And I've been looking at this, editing software, and I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know. And I just saw he was frustrated. He was
Yeah.
flustered. Flustered's a better word. He was just, he just knows he needs to do something. And so
Yeah.
anyway,
It could be overwhelming.
yeah.
And the thing is, it's funny because if we reverse that, I've talked to people. Tom is like, I don't know what this person's profession is,
Yeah.
but let's say, like you specialize in helping franchises, and so I go, listen, if someone came to you, this is what you've been doing for a decade, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we tell people, just why don't you stick to doing that and let other people handle like all the other minutia and details, so you don't have to learn. And I mean, some of us get used to this when you run a business, like you have to kind of do a bunch of everything, but when you can avoid it, you should, right? Because that's not the best use of your time. The best use of our time is developing the relationships that lead to, more referral partners and business, and also just running the day-to-day business
Mm-hmm.
operations. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Great. Well, I don't see any questions coming through.
cool.
So, Jeremy, this was amazing. Thank you for being here. Again, Jeremy at rise25.com, rise25.com, RISE25, the number is 25.com. And thank you so much for being here. This was absolutely fantastic.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, thank you all again for tuning in on the Moving Beyond the Coronavirus Economy series. This will be available for replay here, and looking forward to the next steps.